most of your training should be easy. Yeah, you don't have to be very about what is the percentage. Some say 20, 80. But I can sure tell you that most of my rides, my acclimate, say for example, if my weekly mileage is 500, I can tell you that at least 400 click or more will be easy.
Wow, this Poon, he's been pulling, we saw him on TV, he was pulling for so long and the camera was focused. I'll flash the clip here and people can watch. What was going on and how come I assume...
Because you must understand that 20 over years doing sports, 90% of my time I'm doing triathlon. It's only in recent years I start cycling.
Thomas, one of the guests that I had on, I don't know if you watched my video, he was speaking about you, not in a bad way, but he was saying during his early days how he was joining clubs and started racing. And I think there was one incident or one occasion that he bumped into you and he said that he thought you were Indian and everything. I thought it was quite funny.
The funniest thing is, at first I thought he was Indian. No.
I'm getting Poon onto my show, by the way. I need to tell him this.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to Thomas, who is most likely watching this video? What is your response to his statement? Welcome back to another Oompa Loompa Cycling Podcast, the show where cycling stories, legends and gear take center stage. Today, I'm honoured to have a truly exceptional guest joining me, CK Poon, affectionately known in the cycling community as just Poon. Racing for quantum racing, Poon has built a reputation as one of the most formidable and relentless cyclists on the scene. Whether it's ripping through the peloton, dominating on climbs or powering through sprints, Poon's strength and determination make him a rider to watch every time he clips in. But it's just not his legs doing the talking. Poon is as passionate about the sport as he is competitive, and today I'll be talking to him about his journey into racing, his training philosophy, and the mindset that keeps him pushing past limits. And of course, I can't wait to geek out on a little bit about his incredible S-Works Venge, a bike that's as fast and fierce as he is. We'll also dive into what it's like for him to race for Quantum Racing, one of the most exciting teams in the sport, and hear about his experiences competing against some of the strongest riders out there. From early race memories to unforgettable wins, this is going to be a conversation you won't want to miss. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to give a huge shout out to all my incredible Patreon subscribers. Thank you for making this podcast possible. If you're enjoying the show and want to help me continue bringing stories from the heart of the cycling world, consider joining my Patreon community. For everyone else, be sure to subscribe and follow me on YouTube and Spotify. Every listen, like and share helps the podcast grow and reach more cycling enthusiasts like you. Welcome, fellow viewers, to another interview. This is the most anticipated video that everybody wants to watch. Some of you commented in some other videos. Faster upload the video with Poon. Yes, so it's finally here. I think this is going to be a long one. We have a lot to discuss, and to the point where I have a lot of notes. So let me welcome our guest here for today. We have Poon from Quantum Racing. Poon, thank you so much for coming. Welcome to the Oompa Loompa Cycling Show. I know it took almost 2 or 3 months for us to plan this, and luckily we managed to secure a spot, and we are here today. Poon, maybe you can run us through your cycling achievements. Poon has a lot. If you're a local racer here in Singapore, you will know who he is. Even Thomas, in my previous interview, spoke very highly of you. So, Poon, maybe you want to give an introduction for yourself?
Yeah, so I'm not exactly young. So my journey starts more seriously in year 2000. That was more than 20 years ago. So the interesting thing is I started cycling because as a result of a knee operation, and I wanted to continue to be active, and one of the prescription that the physiotherapist gave was to put me on a bike. So with that, until just pre-COVID, I was mostly doing triathlon, and amongst the 3 disciplines, bike has always been my strongest discipline. So from year 2000 to year 2022, 22 years, most of my races are in triathlon on the bike, TT bike.
Mm-hmm.
I've done mountain bike also. I have also done ITT, TTT. The funny thing is I've never done a road race for those years. It's only during COVID I realized that it gets lonely, because COVID give you a new perspective that you wanted to engage people, and that's where I wanted something that is more team oriented, and I wanted to join a cycling team, and I approached Quantum, and I'm glad they accepted me, and it's been such a privilege to be with Quantum. So one thing good about team sport is that you don't have to win. It's unlike triathlon, it's either you win or you don't win. But if you help your teammates to stand on the podium, it is a victory for yourself.
Even you are not on the podium.
Yeah, even if I'm not on the podium, you have contributed to the team's achievement. It is very fulfilling and satisfying.
So you've been in the sport for 20 years. You've only taken road cycling seriously, joining races during COVID. 20 years and you've done everything, including mountain biking. But I mean, why didn't you continue mountain biking? You just felt that you were not strong in it, or?
Mountain biking has always been an activity for my cross training, because sometimes it can be very bored to just swim, bike, run. So every now and then I'll inject different activities. Sometimes I go hiking. Yeah, swimming has always been I know swimming as a kid, but when I took up triathlon more seriously, I engaged a coach, and it's very much technique bias. And I remember my first race was in Sentosa in the early 2000s. Yeah, so that was my first race, and I remember I'm not even wearing, nowadays they have triathlon kits. I was wearing a Speedo. I was wearing a Speedo, running in that also. Go on a bike.
Do you have photos of that?
Fortunately, I don't have. Yeah. So that was the start of my triathlon journey. Yeah.
And you said you approached Quantum. So Quantum is a local Singapore race team. Why Quantum in particular? And you mean you knew people in Quantum already, or how did it work?
So how I end up in Quantum was, I have always been cycling with groups. I would describe these groups as something like underground fighting groups where people just come and gather from all over the shop. You don't know who they are. They just want to kill each other. and people get to know that somehow I can be quite good in these rides. And I told people that I wanted to join a cycling club. And that's where Matador also approached me, but somehow the time and space just can't fit. And at the same time, Quantum, I guess right. I do guess right for Quantum for about 3 months before I was a official team member. Yeah.
How many official team members are there in Quantum?
Quantum is, as compared to the bigger local clubs such as Maverick and Matador, Quantum has a very small footprint, probably 15. The more active one that has been racing, the more active one that are racing regularly are probably 10. Yeah.
And earlier I was just asking you, how does all this, how does a race team work? Sounds like a very silly question, but of course you guys have sponsorships and all that, but you are not being paid to be a racer, right? So how does the mechanism work? What's the incentive for joining such teams?
The incentive, I think most of my team members do appreciate that the sponsors cover our registration fee, give us team kits, helmets, socks, gloves. The attractiveness of being part of a race team is really to come together and train, and then talk about scenarios in races where we can have strategies, we can have tactics, and that is the really fun part.
Congratulations, by the way, on the Lekas win. It was funny because that was my first Lekas race. I've heard a lot about this race. So it's a night race in Malaysia on a highway that's closed off. On, what was it, 2 weeks ago, so happened I bumped into Poon. I was riding. Hey, Poon, I'm oh shit, sorry, I need to censor that out. My name cannot be. So I'm going to be interviewing you, and then as we were riding, and then after that I saw you at the finish line, and then I congratulated you, and then you said that, hey, You were riding very aggressively. Why do you say that I was riding very aggressively?
Yeah, what is unique about Lekas as compared to other races? There's no neutral start.
Yeah.
So it's full gas once the whistle blow. So everybody was just fighting for position, and I saw you because all the way for the first 20 click before we hit the long incline, the 3-click incline, you were more or less together with all of us. So I say, yeah, it was well done. It was well done because it's like full gas from the start, and all of us managed to stick together, and the speed was crazy.
Yeah.
Despite the rain.
The rain was the scary part because I couldn't really see. Water just splashing, and you don't wear any glasses also, huh?
Yeah, in fact, the visibility, I felt that the visibility will be reduced if I wear glasses.
Fogging and all that.
Yeah, the fogging and then the splashes from other riders. Yeah.
At one point I wanted to take it off also, but the speed was fast, so I got no time to think about all this. My hands are already full, and I was just worried because it was a big pack that everyone was just trying to stick together. There's no time to do something silly like that. And I think the funny thing is I was trying to, so I'm not I don't race a lot. I just join for fun, just to get the experience.
Yeah.
So I think my lesson from the previous race was to try to get in front. Even if I get dropped, it's okay. At least there's a peloton to come there, I can just tag onto them. But for me, the first 20, I thought, easy lah, not so difficult. Suddenly the bloody incline came, I'm like, oh shit, I couldn't keep up with you guys. You guys already took off. I'm like, okay, if I keep going at this pace, I'll burn everything because it's only 20-30 Ks. I think that's when the hill started to filter out those who could really be in the first peloton, second and third.
Yeah.
And how was the race for you, and what was the strategy for you to get into the top spot?
So as you mentioned, the inclines are the one that gives you the best opportunity to create separation. So this is where riders of similar ability will form their own group as the first pack. So as the race progress and in all the inclines, you realize that all these first pack riders, they start to get dropped, especially in all the inclines. So positioning is extremely important because you need to position yourself well before the inclines, because that is where the attacks is going to be. Yeah. So eventually I realized that I made a few attempts to break away, but I bring the wrong people because the Bike Baju team, which is the eventual winner of the team category, was chasing me down because they are eligible for the individual award also. So those people that I bring are not from Bike Baju. So eventually at about 8-click point, with 8-click remaining, there was these 2 Bike Baju guy that make an attempt to break away. So I saw that opportunity and I tried to reach across, I jump across, and the Bike Baju team start giving us some space, and that's where we succeeded.
Wow. And you were you alone at the race? Did you have your quantum folks with you?
Yeah, I was the only quantum, but I had many friends. I had many friends in the race. So especially the Bike Baju guys, because there's no conflict of interest.
Yeah.
These are all young people. So I'm racing in an older cat.
Yeah.
So we knew each other because I've gone to Malaysia to ride them. So they knew my ability, I knew their ability, and we worked with each other.
Yeah. So in terms of racing strategy, so let's say towards the last 5Ks or however much kilometers left to the end point, how do you position yourself to ensure that you are in the top spot? Because I guess everyone was trying to hide and trying to reserve themselves, right? And then suddenly you see one guy who just shoots away. It creates too much of a gap already, right? So how then do you position?
This Lekas, compared to other race, is racing on an expressway with like super wide 4-5 lanes. And with such condition, right, it's very difficult to get away because everybody can travel at very fast speed. So the only opportunity that you have is, as mentioned, during the inclines where you can drop the weaker riders. So that is the only opportunity, and you have to watch. You have to watch who is going. The advantage for me is that I knew the Bike Baju guys, and some of the individuals are very strong. So you need to go with the right people also.
So you've already marked them. You already know who
I already knew who can be my ally. And then when they go, it's a good opportunity. Instead of, like I said, I made a few attempts. So that was not successful. So I wanted to conserve until the right moment.
So for someone like me, okay, Lekas wasn't the only race where I got destroyed on the hills. Even the previous one, the Letap, was it Melaka or whatever? It's always the hills where I'm at the weakest. I say for the majority of population, it generally the toughest part. How do I, of course, training is one thing, but what is the real secret to master this?
There's no secret.
Just work for it.
It's about training. And then what is useful for people when it comes to hill is that you try to go in front before the hills, and then people will start overtaking you, and you just let that happen. But the important thing is you need to invest energy to make sure that opportunity for you to go just before the incline starts.
So start rolling ahead first.
Yeah, you have to invest energy. I mean, in theory, it's easy, but when it comes to execution, it's going to be very hard.
Yeah.
So you roll down. So in fact, when you go out the climbs, right, it's okay for me. For me, it's okay for me for people to overtake, because you must understand that some of these inclines, right, they're also KOM points, and if you are not going for that,
no point.
You just there's
let
no
it
point.
go.
Just let it go.
But sorry, I just got to keep bringing this, but it's for me, it's quite discouraging. Every time I see a hill, bloody hell, I know I cannot. My legs are just so weak. Again, because I'm more of a weekend rider, I don't train so much. I just run I just don't. To the point where every time there's a hill, I look at my Garmin and I see there's a map, there's a plot. Now I always see like how long this is going to be, so that I can reserve energy, because I don't want to smash everything and then end up, I'll be so bonked out that I cannot even finish the race.
Yeah, I guess you look at you are like at least 20 kg lighter than me. so genetically you had the advantage over heavier people like me. I mean, these are just inclines. These are not really mountains. So I think you can include some of the strength training in that in your training, which I find it very useful. Yeah, so that you have the strength to go up the slope.
How do you train? Do you go to the gym, or you only primarily just on the bike?
Yeah, I do a lot of strength training. I visit the gym at least 3 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, but just general mobility, activation, nothing too heavy. 12, 15 reps, not even to failure. Yeah, just to make sure that the muscle is conditioned, because as you age, you start to lose certain percentage by the decades.
And in terms of cycling, do you have a certain target of mileage to complete in a week? How does your week look like?
Okay, so last year, after COVID, as mentioned, I wanted to join a cycling team. I totally dropped the other 2 disciplines, which is swimming and running. So I just focused on running. And last year, not on a weekly basis, but I have a yearly target of 20K, and I achieved it last year. This year, I have a annual goal of 25,000.
Whoa.
So 25,000, if you divide by 52, it is 480 kilometers per week. So it's like doing close to a Rafa 500 every week. And not just during the Christmas season. But I think I might not be able to achieve it.
Yeah.
I might not be able, because it's really a really high target that I set for myself.
Yeah.
But I'll still monitor. I haven't looked my record, but I'll still continue to monitor. But because I know that I haven't been consistently hitting 480 every week.
So this is a 2024 goal, or?
This is a 2024 goal.
So every year the target changes, or?
No, it's just something, then I reevaluate whether it is still worthy to maintain or even increase, because I don't do this for a living. So
this sounds like a full-time CEO KPI that they give their staff. This year, what's your target? Next year, how much to do?
Yeah, it's one of the cycling goals. I mean, I have different cycling goals. So these cycling goals for me can be distance, it can be race, it can be even like every year you want to visit a country to go cycling tour. So these are some of the key goals that I have for myself.
So what is your primary goal then? Racing, or?
So like I say, I have 3 key goals. One is the distance, which I just mentioned. The other one is to visit at least a different country every year for a cycling tour, which I've already achieved last year and this year. And finally is to race with my team. So that's the 3 goals that I set for myself.
Yeah.
And to support my team, in whatever races they have. Sometimes, of course, they support me depending on the situation.
Do you always train with your same teammates, or you always switch it up? Because I know you join different groups and stuff. So in terms of just the camaraderie with your teammates, planning strategies and things, how does that work?
I think Quantum, right, is quite different. Our dynamics is quite different from other clubs in a way that when we recruit you as one of our members, you are already quite established. So when it comes to races, right, our members the team will expect you to do the necessary preparation, to be mature enough to do the necessary preparation and show up in the best possible condition. So I think that's a bit different. The reason why I don't always train in my team is because you're going to different clubs, right? You have a different flavor of different riders. And it is useful to experience rather than, my club, right? Certain group got certain pattern on, is always the same pattern.
Yeah.
So you go different groups, you experience different dynamics. And that's where you hone your race skills.
Does that also enable you to profile the riders and see, if this guy is going for this race and that stuff, so I know who to target?
That's definitely useful.
Yeah.
That's definitely useful. And one thing good about going to different groups, right? You make friends. Hopefully you don't make enemies. You make friends.
Yeah.
And you go to races, you know each other. And there's a very strong likelihood that we can work with each other.
Yeah. I remember the first time we first met was when I did the interview over at OCBC Cycle. And I asked you, and I was actually asking everyone, who do you think is the biggest, I wouldn't say threat, but your biggest competitor during the race, OCBC Cycle.
Yeah.
And if I'm not wrong, I think you mentioned Matt Britton was one of the guys that you were targeting because of his strength. Do you think that's still, how do you think you guys compare to each other? Oh, we were very strong.
Anyway, we had our revenge. Why I say that is because during the road race, you run through this Matt Britton scenario during leading up to the road race. So our team strategy is very simple. It's like, it's TMCR, it's going around and around. I think it's 120. Can't even remember how many loops we have went. But we know that with less than in 2 loops or less, which is about 30 click left, we wanted to make a move. But that will be depending on what Matt Britton does. So when he did a pull, a very hard pull, and when he eased off to the left, so that was the opportunity. So I made a search, and Francois follow, and there are other 3 riders that follow. So one was Poon, one was Afan, and Thomas. So 5 of us took turns and all the way to the end. But Poon was very strong. I was trying to work for Francois because he is definitely a better finisher than me. And kudos to Poon with very strong legs.
So in this kind of scenario where you break away and then you carry along other teammates into that peloton, right? In terms of racing etiquette, let's say nobody wants to do work in front. You go lah, but the guy doesn't want to go. How? Do you still pull, or you intentionally ease out the pressure and force the guy to go in front? But by doing so, then you create the gap becomes shorter, then the guy behind start coming up.
Yeah, so you're totally right. So it's very much dependent. But usually you break away, these are the people that is going for glory. So 1 or 2 guys might miss a turn. And then the reason could be because he's just very fatigued. So that's where you wanted to test his legs. So if you miss a turn, then you just go faster, see whether you can follow or not. And chances are, usually they are fatigued. That's why they miss a turn. Yeah. They miss a turn, of course one can miss a turn when come closer to the finish. That's a totally different thing because you just want to save your legs for the sprint. But if you are in the process of breaking away, it is everybody's interest to make sure that we stay away. So everybody will do their part. Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether sorry for my language, but whether it's a dickhead move to not do anything and you just stick to the front peloton and then during the finish line, you just sprint out, and everyone has been doing the work this whole time, but you didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's one of the racing strategies. It's not really dickhead lah. I mean, yeah, it can be very irritating, but that's just part of racing.
Part of racing, right?
Yeah, it's just part of racing. So what is going through my mind is that you continue to pull. You don't want to end up in a bunch sprint. Just carry him as a passenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Johor cycling series.
Yeah.
I was in that race, and unfortunately I crashed the last 5 kilometers. I don't want to talk about it, but I think I watched there was a live broadcast, and after the race, I was with a bunch of friends, and they'll say, wow, this Poon, he's been pulling, we saw him on TV, he was pulling for so long, and the camera was focused. I'll flash the clip here and people can watch. What was going on, and how come I assume it was a breakaway, you wanted to separate from the main pack?
Yeah, it was more opportunistic because with 30 click left, everybody was going for those who are going for the KOM point, the second KOM point. There was a very long incline at the top of the bridge. So the very predictable behavior for people who go for KOM is that once they cross the KOM line, they will ease off. And I saw that opportunity. And after that, it was going downhill already because I also had the advantage because I was pretty heavy. So there's no big movement. I was not dancing. I don't want to set off any alarm bell.
Yeah.
So I was just simply pedaling harder.
Simply pedaling harder.
I was just simply pedaling. Then I realized that, oh yeah, I got a gap already. And then it was 30 click. Then eventually, Thomas, together with 2 other Malaysia state riders, they caught up with me. And I just burned my legs too much. I tried to stick with them. I tried to work with them. But I got caught with 500 meters left.
Thomas, one of the guests that I had on, I don't know if you watched my video, he was speaking about you, not in a bad way, but he was saying during his early days how he was joining clubs and started racing. And I think there was one incident or one occasion that he bumped into you, and he said that he thought you were Indian and everything. I thought it was quite funny.
The funniest thing is, at first I thought he was Indian. No.
I'm getting Poon onto my show, by the way. I need to tell him this.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to Thomas, who is most likely watching this video? What is your response to his statement?
I would take it as a compliment because when you're very dark, that means you are training a lot.
Santan.
yeah, that means you're training a lot. So
very fair.
yeah, that means you're training a lot. So the color of your skins tell you how much you train also. And then Thomas, I think recently he has lost quite a fair bit of weight. And the last conversation that we had is, although his power has dropped, but the power to weight ratio has improved. So good for him. I think he's one of the few good hope for Singapore to do well, to represent Singapore. And I really wish him all the best.
What do you think of the cycling scene here in Singapore in terms of the cycling squad? How are we going to compete in Asia? Do we have enough talent? Is SDF doing enough? What's your thought about that?
So for me, right, I was never a national cyclist. So the structure of training and how the team was formed, actually I don't have much clue. What I can say is that if you look at our regional competition as compared to our locals, I think they have caught up. Many years ago, we still have medalists in SEA Games, but now you look at the current squad, right? I think it's tough. It's not because they are weaker, but because I think that our regional friends has improved. Yeah, to the next level.
Then what do you think we could do better? Is it just a talent pool issue, or not many cyclists out there?
I think STF is trying to get youngster going into e-sport because many of the parents are concerned about safety when their kids are on the road. So I think it's the correct direction. More people start to go into cycling, and then I believe there is a velodrome that is coming up. So these are all good initiatives that can develop our youth through e-sport, through velodrome, and eventually, as they mature, we hope that they can represent Singapore well.
I asked you earlier whether you would do cycling all over again.
Yeah, certainly.
No regrets.
No regrets. Cycling, I mean, I had my fair share of crashes also. So wasn't easy, but it's been very challenging. Personally, I prefer doing what I'm already good in. Yeah, like I say, amongst my 3 disciplines during my triathlon days, cycling has always been my strongest. So I just focus on cycling and see where it brings me.
Yeah. One more last question about Letap before we go on to the bike. Letap Malacca, you were saying that you did a very, very long pull. Breakaway or a pull.
Oh, yes. So I think during the Malacca race, at about 100 click away, so there were 6 of us. 4 or 3 from Maverick. Then there's 1 guy from Enza, which is now my teammate. Yeah, so we did a very long pull. And with about 8 click left, the peloton caught up with me. Matt Britton and the Malaysia rider, who are the eventual winners, they breached across to us and they were just too strong. They just continue from there. And
okay. How do you find the Letap races? That was my first race for the year. Again, I mentioned it in some other videos how I went for the race, but I thought the Letap Malacca was kind of tough because of the hills, undulating hills.
Yes, certainly Malacca is rolling. It's not mountain, but it's rolling. The Letap races are so-called associated to Tour de France, so they must have certain level of standards. So what I like about Letap is the closed route. So the route are all yours. You can always choose your preferred line. Yeah, instead of, and of course it's a lot safer when you have closed route.
Yeah. Now let's talk about equipment. You started off, you have a triathlon bike as well. Can you maybe share with us some of the bikes that you've had, and then also how do you eventually reach to this one?
I bought my first bike from my neighbor. It was a Conago steel bike, which I used it for 7 years before I decided to participate in Ironman races, and that's where I bought my Cefalo P2, and that was inspired by this lady called Chrissy Wellington.
Okay.
Yeah, 4-time Ironman world champion. So she was a figure which I admire a lot. So she happens to ride a P2, and I bought a P2. And the difference between the Conago steel bike and a road bike and a TT bike is there's a big margin of improvement. Yeah.
And then you had this bike quite recently, or were you riding this for a long time?
I owned this bike for just 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, just 2 months. Previously, before this bike, which I also have been riding, is the Merida Reacto, which I use for my recent road race also.
Are you a bike geek? Are you very particular with bikes, or you don't care? I ride whatever that I can get my hands on.
Yeah, I go for. I'm not really a bike geek, but I go for what is value for money. And a bike with the highest return on investment is something that I would look at.
I've been asking a few guests, or in Singapore we tend to have a very high purchasing power. You have very fancy bikes here. Thoughts about look at that one. There's a Dogma over there. We see a lot of Dogmas here in Singapore. Not only Dogmas, I mean other boutique brands and specialized bikes. Will you ever get one of those? I know you are after return on investment.
I don't mind owning a Dogma, purely because it is a good bike rather than is a luxury brand. Yeah, from the angle, I think the Dogma F has been around. I mean, the Dogma has been around for many years. And one thing good about Pinalero is they just do one bike. Some of the bike company, they have the climbing bike, which is super light. Then they have the aero bike. But now you look at the trend. The trend is just trying to combine both together. Yeah. And Pinalero has been doing this since many years ago.
Yeah. They don't have the separation.
Yeah, they don't have separation. So I think they are the pioneer of this approach.
And Gary, who runs Weekend Bike Fitter, just now I think was it him asking you? I overheard you guys saying that the last time you did a bike fit was 20 years ago.
Yeah, so it's like I did it with Bike Labs, Ryan. Yeah, he did a fit. So I remember that the fit there was 3 position. They give me 3 sheet of paper. That time, 3 sheet of paper. So one sheet of paper says this is something like comfort. The other one is somewhere in between. The final one is the aggressive one. So I say, let's go with the aggressive one.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just data telling you. It's just data on a sheet of paper telling you what is the seat post height, what is the preferred stem length, what is your bike based on the biomechanics.
So now you do your own setup.
Yeah, I I do my own setup. So I look at what the pro peloton, the trend is, and please do not try this at home. I think you'll get into trouble if you have any biomechanic issues. So I look at the pro setup. Well, usually they are very aggressive. I try to replicate. Yeah.
So very short and low front end and high seat post.
Yeah. So you can see this bike is a size 54, and just now I mentioned that this is a zero setback seat post, and I had a 140 minus 12 degree stem.
Yeah.
So this position brings me very close to my PT position.
So when you had the Reacto, why did you want to upgrade to the Venge?
The Reacto was a 1516 model, and from my observation, the bike industry has improved over the last 10 years. Even though, if you realize, the World Tour bikes 10 years ago can be lighter than our current bike. I guess weight is the only tangible measurement. And one of the advice I will give people is don't be too obsessed in the weight. Yeah, nowadays the bike can be heavier than the bikes 10 years ago, but in terms of comfort, in terms of aerodynamics, which is not really measurable, has a big improvement. So the reason why I buy Venge is because of all these factors. You can accommodate wider tires because it's a disc brake as compared to a rim brake. I like the classic lines of aero bike which the Venge has.
I had the Venge. I love that bike. I regretted selling the bike. I mean, you can't get it now, man. And it's a really good bike. For you, you've been in the scene for a pretty long time, 20 years ago. What do you think was the biggest improvement in bike technology from 20 years ago and now?
I think the biggest improvement, I think there's a few things. Like I mentioned, the aerodynamics is certainly one. Then the better power transfer. Having wider tires are really a game changer because the rolling resistance is reduced despite being more comfortable.
How wide do you run? 28?
I run a 28, 30 behind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tubeless?
Tubeless.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cannot afford a puncture in the race.
So, of course, once you have puncture, if you are going for good placing, the race is over.
Yeah.
So, tubeless still has a chance for you to patch yourself and even do well in races.
Touch wood, has it ever happened to you? Like where you couldn't patch up that?
Yeah, I've not during my road race, but during my triathlon days.
Then it's just game over.
Yeah, I have to wait for the support vehicle. Yeah.
Okay, so the Venge, the interesting thing you told me about this, because it is a glossy black, and I've never seen a glossy black Venge. It is a replacement frame.
Yeah, I was told that the only glossy Venge is only available in the form of replacement frame. So this bike was crashed, and the dealer just replaced it with another frame which is glossy.
Okay, do you mind giving us a rundown of your setup? What kind of components you have on here?
Okay, let's start with the front end first. So I run a 38 width drop bar, 140 stem, minus 12 degree, zero setback. The crank arm is 170. It comes with it, but I prefer a shorter crank arm. And it is a 52-36. All my previous setup are all 54-40. That suits me better because I have a lower cadence. And 12-speed Dura Ace. The wheels are fantastic.
When you bought the bike, was it frame only or you bought the whole complete bike?
I bought the whole bike.
Whole bike. Were you looking at certain components, or because of the return on investment this came with, you're like, okay, done deal?
It's really more more at the performance. I'm looking more at performance. So the only thing I changed was from a 90 cm stem to a 140 stem.
Was it easy to find a 140 and a negative 12?
Yeah, it's available in the specialized website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when I was mounting the bike, I see that you have a lot of tape on your frame, prevent corrosion on the bolts.
Oh yeah, these are just some simple hacks to prevent corrosion and maybe even some marginal gains in terms of aerodynamics. So I just use electrical tape to tape out those exposed bolts.
Story behind these pedals, I've never seen this ones.
Yeah, these pedals are aftermarket pedals of Lux. It's a Expedo. It is you can get it from Lazada for less than $60, and the weight is pretty much the same as top end original Lux.
One more thing that you guys will not believe is Poon doesn't run a cycling computer. I'm very surprised. Can you tell me some enlighten me of the story why there's no cycling computer?
It has to do with how I prefer to train. So for me, the way I train is just purely using perceived effort. I like to keep things super simple. I don't do intervals. I don't go on Zwift. I just go out and ride. I commute a lot. And I don't think I need this information. And in a race, I'm not too sure what are the information that is useful, because it's very much, your effort is very much dependent on the peloton. So you can't I'm hitting a 300 already, I cannot last already, but the peloton is still going at that speed, and you have to hold 300, means you have to hold 300. So you just go, you have to go until one day you are able to do it.
That is true, because when I race, I don't want to use the word race as a term, because technically I'm not going for podium, but when I join these races, there is really no time to look at it. It's so small, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm looking at. I'm just focused on, trying to stick with the peloton, and then all this data becomes irrelevant. But for me, I think it helps during training.
Certainly.
Not that I train a lot. I mean, like, just when I go on a ride and stuff, I like to see some data and stuff. But for you, then how do you train without all these metrics?
I mean, over the years, I've never had a power meter or gadgets. I'm not into gadgets. So I think because you have so much experience over like more than 20 years cycling, you are quite in tune with what your body can do. So you just adjust from there. So this is the advantage that comes with many years.
That you cannot sell or buy.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you think it would help if you maybe had a power meter or even a simple heart rate monitor? Would that help?
I have a heart rate on my Garmin watch, but those are more on high side data. I guess certainly it will be useful if I want to go into something more structured. Yeah, but at this point of time, I just want to keep it as simple as possible.
Okay. Nutrition. What do you have a strict diet before, after a race, and during a race? What do you eat?
I think nutrition is a very important factor in doing well in races, because at the effort, you definitely burn more calories. So one of the important thing to train, right, is to make sure that you train your stomach to be able to absorb certain amount of calories. I think this is something which I observe during those hard rides, long hard rides. Some of these people are not following very strictly. And you know that if you look at the world tours, you know that all these pro riders, they have increased their calories per hour by quite significantly. So for me, nutrition means during races, I take in at least 500. But of course, like I say, you need to train your body to be able to stomach those. So what it means, nutrition, is I will have 3 gels and my solution. The solution is very simple. The solution is just 100 plus 500 ml, 100 plus, perfect, with 250 of Red Bull. And that will fill my 750 ml bottles perfectly.
Wow.
And the other thing about nutrition is when you race in tropical country or in humid, you have to make sure that your electrolytes are being replaced. So I went for this sweat test, which was very useful. And it's really the science behind it that make sure that you get your electrolyte replacement. And I believe it will prevent cramps, especially, which is very common towards the later stage of the race. People experience cramp, and this is one of the way to prevent such incident.
When I interviewed Alicia Britton, I asked her the same question. I said, what do you take on the bike and how do you prevent cramps? Because every time when I join or when I do such long rides, I tend to get cramps, and I have a very bad nutrition. I don't, most cyclists or hobbyist cyclists, we don't think about that. Just drink water or Ribena or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And she said she takes a gel every 40 minutes. So she times it. And I think that helped me because when I did these races, even though I'm not thirsty, I'm not hungry, I just force myself to eat that gel. It gives me the extra boost and prevents cramps. So in terms of your gel intake, how do you plan that out in a race? You only bring 3 gels?
I have 3 gels every hour. So it means
Wow.
instead of every 20 minutes, I'll consume a gel, which is about 90 to 100 calories. Like I say, I try to stay close to 500 calories an hour. So I have 3 gels which will adds up to about 300 calories. The remainder of the calories are just from my isotonic.
So when you say that whether your body can take in that calories, do you mean that there might someone who just keeps eating all these gels very frequently and their body is not conditioned to this, that will lead to, I don't know, maybe a heart attack
gastric
or whatever?
issues,
Oh, okay.
Mostly it's gastric issue like bloating. So it is important when you want to simulate some of these races, go for long hard rides. It is a good opportunity for you to practice your nutrition.
So always do it. Don't only do it during the race.
Yeah, of course. You don't do it during a race. I think you're in trouble.
But Bike Baju, this guy, Dr. No More Waisun, I interviewed him. I also asked him also the similar question, and he said that they do like a sugar water or something into their bottle. Yeah,
it's a lot cheaper way to instead of you buy nutrition, right? So simple. Table sugar, right? Is, if I'm not wrong, is 50% sucrose, 50% fructose and 50% glucose. So the different type of sugars give you, because different sugars absorb into your body using different pathway.
Yeah.
So with the more different sugars, the better the absorption. It gives you better energy. So I think the nutrition has gotten very complicated. Yeah.
And I also heard that some I can't remember the rider, but someone saw this rider at the breakfast and before a race, he started chugging his bottle with a lot of sugar. And the question is whether you can drink that or not, because it's going to be so sweet, and whether that will be something that your body can absorb also, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you already know how it's going to taste like during your training, I think that's not really an issue. But you don't want the first thing that go inside your mouth, then it shock you and...
Yeah. Okay. Can I ask you some questions from my Instagram followers? A few people submitted some questions. So the first one is, this rider says, should I even bother about joining any events or races at all if I can't even ride TMCR at a minimum of 38 kilometers an hour for 50 kilometers?
It depends on what is your objective for participating in races. Some is just to complete, some is to compete. But usually races will push your limits because everybody is competing against each other, and the likelihood of pushing your limits is a lot higher. If you go, everybody was like, you look at all their faces around you, it's it's almost all dying already. So everybody just chiong. Yeah. So I think races is useful for you to continue to push your limits, and importantly, it also give you a purpose why you train. Yeah. So I think races, I would encourage people to join races just for the experience.
Yes. So I joined for the experience, not because I want to go on top. And also I think it's a very humbling experience. You think you are so good. Wait until you go out there and you see people on, even cheaper bikes on a very loose outfit and flapping all over the place. Wow, the guy is faster than you. Then it really brings you down to earth. Like, wow, okay, I'm not fast. I'm not good. There's people out there who's much better than me.
Yeah.
And just coming back to the point where you said that you were not running any cycling computers and stuff, and there's no need. I remember when I was at Lekas, I was riding in this peloton, and then this guy suddenly asked me, "Hey, how many kilometers are we at already? And how many kilometers left?" Like, huh? What are you asking me? So I guess even if you don't have all this, you can be quite resourceful and ask people. And
this is people around you you are friends with them, you ask, they'll tell you. But it is always useful to, it come with the race booklet. See, some of this information is readily available. There are water points. So you see the water point. Not necessarily you have to go and get the water, but this water point is the first water point. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the race booklet has all this information, and you know that the climb is coming. You see the KOM. You know that, for example, the Lekas at the 20 click, there's a KOM. So you're 20 click in.
Yeah.
The next KOM point, the reverse side, is 50 click. So when you come back, you roughly know it's 50 click.
Yeah. That's a good tip, so you don't really need it. The next question then is this is a very light question, okay, not serious question. You say, why are you always so serious? Is it because of your army background? No sense of humor?
I didn't know that. Am I serious? Am I always so serious?
I guess people see you on the road, they think you're very serious.
Yeah, maybe it's because I don't smile a lot on the road, because sometimes it's just you are so into your own things. Yeah, one thing about me is like, usually when I'm cycling in a group, I don't usually initiate a conversation. So I'm perfectly friendly.
Okay, so anyone can reach out to you.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is sounds a bit personal, but it says, what are your lowest points in your life, be it on your bike, and why so?
The lowest point.
Sorry, he said he submitted 2 questions. One is lowest and your proudest achievements.
I wouldn't describe it as lowest, because there are valuable lessons learned even though you don't do well. If you associate the lowest point as not doing well. I remember my first bike race, it was called the Master Tour of Malaysia. It was last year, my first stage races on the bike. Yeah, the first was the ITT. I came in second in my age group. The second stage and the third stage, I simply don't know what I'm doing, because coming from a TT background, every opportunity, I will just keep searching until I burn everything, and end up I was like 15 or 16 in my age group, which is not exactly flattering.
Okay. And what do you say would be your proudest achievement?
Proudest achievement, I would think that it's not really a bike race, but I did Kona in 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was like the holy grail in triathlon, because you must understand that 20 over years doing sports, 90% of my time I'm doing triathlon. It's only in recent years I start cycling. So that 90% of time, which I spend so much effort in honing my triathlon skills, fitness, I think Kona is the one that is my proudest moment.
Why is it so hard to enter Kona? Is it because of the fact that you need to qualify for it, or?
Yeah, but for me it's easier, because as you know, I'm from the military, so there's this military cat. I remember it was Ironman Cairns, where there are 15 participants, including me. The rest are all Australian Army, and I happened to be there, and I took the only slots. I think they must be damn angry with me.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, next one is a bit of a secret, but what is your FTP and VO2 max?
I have totally no idea.
Actually, I don't even know what is my FTP, because you don't have a computer, so no point bother checking.
I have totally no idea.
Will you plan to go for a test? Maybe just go to some studio or whatever and give it a try.
I don't think that's necessary.
A bit pointless.
Yeah, I mean, the way I race, the way I train, this information is not going to be useful to me.
This is the biggest point that I also had, is on your bike geometry, on the saddle. This guy say, WTF is that saddle position? Why is your saddle position so tilted down?
I think it's angled. It's not. Is it a lot?
It doesn't look flat to me. I mean, that's why just now I asked you, don't you feel a lot of stress on your arms, because a lot of weight will be in front, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm quite used to it. I think everybody is different, so my biomechanics allow me to go in this position, because when it's tilted down, it allows my hip to roll forward, and I feel that I can generate more power. More power.
Just personal preference.
Yeah, it's just a personal preference.
Okay. This is from Ryan. He asked you, can you tell me more about your 8 bowls of ramen? What is this about?
So So that was like I say just now, one of my goals is to travel to a different country every year. So last year I started my journey to Chiang Mai. So at Chiang Mai there was this buffet breakfast. Yeah. So I think I ate about 6 or 8 ramen.
Is it like decent bowl?
No,
or?
it was just a
Okay.
just mini. It's just a mini ramen.
Okay.
Then I think a lot of people were very amused at how much I can eat because after the ramen I still consume the bread.
Oh.
Yeah, but actually I was quite annoyed. I'm eating. Can you just leave me alone?
I think some cyclists that I interview also they track their consumption of how much they're eating. Do you think that's useful?
I don't count calories.
Just whack whatever lah.
Yeah, when I'm off the bike, but I'm very precise when it comes to racing. But off the bike, it's just.
So when you mean precise during racing is what you bring in during your bottles and also just daily.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned, is about 500 calories. So it's 3 gels plus the necessary isotonic.
Okay. Are you familiar with like zone 2 training and all that? I'm asking because you don't have a cycling computer, so.
I mean, if you use perceived effort, easy means easy for you. Everybody's zone 2 is different, but everybody's zone 2 is different, but zone 2 means, I guess, it's just easy ride. Some call it base and some other fanciful names. But to me, it's just an easy ride. So your body, easy means easy, hard means hard. I cannot differentiate between zone 2, base. It's just an easy ride.
Can I admit something? Actually, I also don't even know what is my zone 2. To me, it's like easy or hard only lah. Like a lot of people talk about zone 2 lah, zone 1, 3 and all that. I'm like, wow, bro, actually, I don't even know how to count all this. I know it's calculated based on your effort and all that lah.
Yeah.
This question is actually by Bike Baju guy's name is I think it's Jian Le.
Jian Le,
yeah. He say zone 2 long ride or intense short ride. Hope you still remember me.
Oh yes.
So he asked, do you prefer zone 2 long ride or intense short ride?
So if you are a performance orientated guy like me, you know what is necessary to be done. So most of and consistency, I think everybody knows. Consistency is about going on the saddle as frequent as possible. So commuting allows me to achieve this. It's convenient because from where I stay to my office is 40 clicks. So to and fro, I'll cover 80 clicks.
Oh.
And this is all done in a very easy effort. So what I'm trying to say is most of your training should be easy. Yeah, you don't have to be very about what is the percentage. Some say 20, 80. But I can sure tell you that most of my rides, my acclimate, say for example, if my weekly mileage is 500, I can tell you that at least 400 click or more will be easy. The only time I do hard, which I need people to push me when it's doing hard. So it's in those group rides, short group rides. And to answer to his question, definitely I enjoy the company of people around me and try to kill each other.
So when you do your short rides, these are mainly your commutes or?
No, when I'm doing my
the relax rides.
These are mostly commuting.
Okay.
Mostly commutings.
So just easy pedaling and just to get to the destination.
Yeah, commuting. Then sometimes when you go out, a flyover, you just put in some effort. That's about it.
So you ride to work every day?
No, I don't do it every day.
Okay.
Yeah. I do it. It is I will listen to my body. If it's sustainable and I don't feel too tired, I'll do it.
Okay. Can you, from the user, can you tell us or explain to us the performance of the Venge? How do you like it?
So the Venge as compared to, as a reference point to my previous bike, which is the Merida, it is a lot more responsive. Yeah, and it's a lot more aggressive also because my Merida is a size bigger. It's a size 56 with a shorter stem. So the drop between the seat post and the handlebar the drop is not that big. So it's more comfortable. Like I say, this one allows for wider tire.
Okay.
My Merida is using a 25. In terms of performance wise, this frame is just very responsive.
This is my personal question. In your opinion, how important is a bike, or is it just a tool for you?
How important is a bike? If your question is about return on investment, what give you the best ROI in terms of performance? The body position definitely is the most important factor because I think we all know that more than 80% of the air resistance come from the rider's body. So if you can get into a very narrow aero position for a prolonged period, you can go fast. But if you want to invest in your bike for that less than 20%, you can do so also.
Yeah. It's just no ROI lah, or minimal ROI.
Yeah, the ROI definitely is lesser lah. So like I say, if you invest in your body position, 50% of that can be like 10% of what you put into the bike.
Okay. As a closing remark, or the last closing question I have is from the user. He says, how do I become a stronger rider? Referencing you. Do I join fast cycling groups, or what is your advice?
Just ride more. First, the most important thing is you need to enjoy riding. Yeah, to ride more without enjoying that sports is not the right direction. So you must enjoy. You must really enjoy riding. It's like an adventure. Riding gives you happiness. It's a gateway to adventure, to explore new places.
Is cycling a getaway for you? Do you release stress when you're on a bike?
So my highlight of the days are usually my commuting. The highlight of my days are usually the to and fro or commuting. Yeah, this is where the in between, where the work, when you get to go home, when you go to work, you enjoy that. You have to sweat.
Yeah.
Feel good. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much, Poon, for coming, and I appreciate your time, and all the best. Maybe I see you on another road race. Hopefully this time I'll be able to climb up the inclines, and thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We're done.
1 hour. All right. All right,